Panel 1, where we shall be discussing upon India's security reality check, cutting through the noise and narratives. This discussion will cut through the noise and narratives to reflect on the hard realities shaping our national security. To steer the important discussion, may I first invite the moderator of the session, Captain Gurpavan Singh, on the stage. Joining him, his distinguished panel, Dr. Vikram Singh, Major General G.D. Bakshi, Ma'am Anju Gupta, Major Manjit, Rajain, and Capt. Shakil, Ahmed. Over to you, Captain Gurpavan Singh.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, after listening to Bana Singh Saab and hearing the motivating words from President, जज्बा तो जय हिंद बोल के कोई पोस्ट जीतने का कर रहा है, बट शायद मॉडर्न ज़माने में पोस्ट भी जगह जगह खुल गए, साइबर में पोस्ट खुल गए, नए नए चैलेंजेस आ रहे हैं. So that's what we also need to look for. Thank you so much, honorable panelists, for joining us here. I think India is becoming a new India in which geopolitical position, new economic might, new military might, and as 14th President very clearly said, that all want a strategic relationship with us. It's changing. And for a very long time, we used to look at some countries that we want to be friendly with them. Tables have actually turned 180 degrees and they are looking at us now. And very correctly brought out, Surakshit Bharat hi Viksit Bharat ho sakta hai. If that is the situation, security is so important always. Also realize, security is not only important one day. Security is important every day, every hour, every moment. So all of us who work relentlessly on this, we really are huge contributors. And among all of us, all distinguished panelists on the stage have contributed immensely to this work of security for India. And at the same time, they have also worked at the policy level, international relation level, a lot of strategies with them. I'm blessed to be sharing stage with them, and maximum time we'll spend listening to them, so that we are able to get some kind of blueprint or a white paper for future within this very tremendously moving risk dynamic world, what exactly we need to go for. Maybe I take the liberty to ask Dr. Vikram Singh first. So when we are looking at the situation, what are the present challenges for India? Are they still the same what we were living with 10, 20 or even 2 years back? And the dynamics that are impacting the security scenario, how are we placed overall on that front, sir?
Thank you, Gary, and my dear esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I would be living in a fool's paradise if I were to imagine that things are the same even what they were 12 months ago. Things are moving so fast that we literally have to run just to stay still. I could have gone into any number of crimes, the heads, gang rapes, road holders, nothing. I'll just go into 3, which impact all of us sitting in this room and the entire country. The drug, narco-terrorism, the problem of cybercrime, the digital arrests, and the third, the presence of illegal Bangladeshi migrants. They impact each and every one of us. Now, if you give me 30 seconds for each, I'll wind up in 2 minutes exactly. The scary scene of drug menace is that the recovery is almost of 12,000 crores in one go and 15,000 crores in Tuticorin, 303 kilos of cocaine in one go. Now, every school, it is difficult to identify a single school or college that does not have an outlet or some putkar vikreta of drugs. In fact, when some drug enforcement people went and they said, sir, all the drugs are available outside at the gates. We get it, why can't you get it? Now, the scary part is NDPS is one of the most stringent laws with a death penalty and also confiscation of property. With all these recoveries, we only get the small timers. We don't get the big fish because the big fish are entrenched in what you know, crime, caste and politics. Now the next is illegal Bangladeshis. We are nurturing parasites to the tune of the entire population of Australia who don't pay a rupee of tax but enjoy all the freebies of the government. And then, can we not think, General G.D. Bakshi, sir, can we not have to just remove their citizenship, prevent them from getting even a single rupee from government benefits and ensuring that they do not get citizenship or any right to work in India? And last but not least, cybercrime. It is difficult to find a single household which has not been impacted or targeted. Not only the digital arrests, but honey trapping, and look at the loot. I'll just give you the figures of the loot. 1 million cases in 2023, 2.2 million cases in 2024. The loot is almost 70,000 crores. And 100 years of Dakaiti, Madhav Singh, Malkhan Singh, Phulan Devi, Mohar Singh, Chaviram Pothi, Mahavira, that was barely 50 or 100 crores. 100 sonar ki, 1 lohar ki, yahan malum pada ghar bhar mein jhadu lag gaya. So this is the level and the scary situation of cyber crime, that it is more. And the reason is fourfold. The connectivity, General Pant will enlighten us, the connectivity. Then the mule accounts, the ease with which you get the mule accounts. Third, the international players, the application of mind by the Koreans, the Malaysians and the Indonesians to perfect the art of getting a police station, a virtual police station, a CBI office and the ED office. I will leave it to the wisdom of the audience here to see how best to extricate ourselves. Please be alert for yourself, for your children, because the enemy is not at the gates, the enemy has entered inside. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So aptly placed, and when you use the word parasite, I can so much relate to it, because still Indian budget, more than 2 lakh crores every year, is only spent on ration and its distribution. And if it is going to people who are there to harm the country, you can imagine how much we're feeding into them. Maybe taking a step further and requesting Jal Bakshi to comment on it. Sir, more and more India is rising. That typical TV ad used to come, owners' pride and neighbors' envy. And our own neighbors are becoming a regular challenge for us and bringing challenges which are of new age. How much we are ready, can we neutralize, where we place? You worked so much on this subject. How about your expert comments on the same, sir?
You know, may I at the outset reiterate the fact that we are living through a significant paradigm shift, firstly in international security. You come to the local from the global, right? The regional from the global. Paradigm shift in international security from a unipolar world order with the United States as numero uno. We now have a multipolar world order, right? We have President Donald J. Trump unleashing chaos as he shifts global national security from a geopolitical basis of planning and execution to a mercantilist orientation based on trades and tariffs, where the people most hurt are the friends of the United States, right? And we are the only country that has stood up, shown the spine and gave an example to the rest of the world, right? Of we will stand up for our national interest. And when you stand up for your national interest, you have to be prepared for the consequences that are likely to follow. And that gets us to the regional situation. Your periphery, sir, is on fire. Right? Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and today Nepal, burning, absolute unleashing of anarchy. Democratically elected governments being consigned to the flames, ministers being chased down the streets and, thrashed publicly. And it is happening with a playbook, a standard familiar playbook. We saw that playbook in operation in Sri Lanka. We've seen that playbook in operation in Bangladesh, a colored revolution, with the help of the CIA, the ISI, Jamaat-e-Islami. The same bloody Jamaat-e-Islami that when we were fighting for Bangladesh in 71, we took part in that war. They were supplying women to the Pakistan army. And those are the people back in charge. Look, there is chaos around your periphery. The threats have never been higher. In 1971, we carried out a restructuring of subcontinental security. Pakistan was in bed with the United States as it is now, right? And they had unleashed a genocidal crackdown in Bangladesh. 3 million Bengalis killed, 1 million Bengali women raped, 10 billion Bengalis shoved into India. Ki tum khilao, tum maro. Which would have destroyed our economy over a period of time. Don't forget, we were then had just come out of the ship to mouth syndrome. But we dared, and we won. I was there in that war, many of my colleagues here were. In 14 days, we had marched 550 kilometers into Bangladesh from 3 sides, unfurled the tricolor on the capital city of Dhaka, 93,000 prisoners of war. We've seen them. And we've all seen Lieutenant General Amir Akbar Abdullah Khan Niazi, Hilale Jurrat, Sitara Pakistan, weeping like a baby, and as he handed over his pistol to Jagjit Singh Arora, Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora. Ladies and gentlemen, be prepared. You will have to do it again. Because if you wait to be hit, you are going to be losers. We will have to preempt. We will have to be offensive. We can't wait for the next hit. That is what I am trying to say. Sindoor, Operation Sindoor was a trailer. Main picture abhi baki hai. 1971, Victor Hugo said, no army can withstand the strength of an idea whose time has come. In 1971, it was time for the birth of Bangladesh. 2025, is it time for the birth of Baluchistan? Is it time for the liberation of Gilgit-Baltistan? Is it time for the liberation of POK? That means, sir, you have to be ready to fight. Even in 71, America was totally with Pakistan. China was totally with Pakistan. The 7th Fleet had been sent into the Bay of Bengal to stop the fall of Dhaka. They couldn't prevent it. Today, you have the same lineup against you. The smart thing is that we have tried to have a thaw with China because it is in the national interests of both of us. If we have friends like Donald J. Trump, who needs enemies? It's as simple, who needs enemies, right? So therefore, I think it's a very intelligent decision on the part of the government. We have options. You think you can bully us? You think you can kick us in the teeth and we'll take it quietly? No, sir. This is a civilizational state. It's not a horror nation like Pakistan. It will lick your boots. We are not prepared to lick boots, sir. We will stand up. And when you say that, when you show strategic defiance, well, there will be consequences and comeback. The latest we have seen are in Nepal. This is a familiar playbook, sir. This playbook is being unleashed even as we speak in our own country. Internal and external threats, I would rate them equal today. And this is where you count. It's a privilege, thanks to you, to interact with such a hands-on body of professionals. We are living through challenging times. But let me tell you this. Arnold Toynbee said, great civilizations arise in response to great challenges from the social or natural environment. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Very motivating. And as you pointed out, there's a very critical aspect of the playbook, because if you look at Arab Spring, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, and many other places, they all have been leaderless revolutions. Who's the leader in these revolutions? Meta, Google, Facebook. They bring such people together who can cause a revolution but cannot be the leaders to take over. So earlier when revolution used to take place, there was a leader who will take over. Now who takes over? I think we all have the answer. We know about it. But that's where, ma'am, we come to you. If this is the situation and that's the international environment we are in, and you worked so much on it, so how about international geopolitical? I mean, for or against India? Do we have the steps to challenge and take forward the momentum as we are discussing today?
Good afternoon, Mr. Captain Singh, and also good afternoon to my co-panelists, ladies and gentlemen. The topic is what is the international geopolitical environment? Is it for us or against us? So the first point I want to make is that the international geopolitical environment has been in a great flux for at least last 4 years. It's always in a state of flux because you're dealing with people, different nations, different geographies. But last 4 years plus has been in deep flux, and it is becoming more complicated as we speak day by day. What does it affect? It affects our homeland. It affects diaspora. It affects sea lanes of communication, which means trade and businesses. There could be crossfire, and it affects shared peace and security and prosperity of India with its allies. So these are some of the things that we should be mindful of when we discuss geopolitics. Well, there have been 2 wars in the pipeline, Russia-Ukraine war for more than 3 years, and Israel-Hamas is now nearly completing 2 years. It has divided the world. The world has always been divided into camps, into sub-camps, but these wars have divided the world like no other time. These wars have disrupted businesses, trades, created security scares for people, and many other things. The violence has spread. One of the casualties of Russia-Ukraine war is India, where 25% penalty has been slapped on India by the US, saying that because you've been buying oil from them, they are able to fund the war. So the geopolitics can go to this extent of harming our interest or anybody else's interest. It's a very important point to note. Then there is something else happened in the world which we must be mindful of because we are talking security. I'm focusing on security, not on geoeconomics right now. It is the unraveling of Syria. In December 2024, Syria unraveled. Bashar al-Assad's government just went like a pack of cards. And who was resurrected? Julani. He was the top leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq and became a top leader of ISIS, Daesh in Syria. And thereafter he broke away from these groups in propaganda, but he continued to remain a person of violence. He has been resurrected, and very quickly regional countries and a lot of Western countries have established relationship with him. So much so that probably he'll be visiting United Nations and addressing the world. Somebody who has blood on his hand. The point I'm making is not about Julani. The point I'm making is that Syria today is divided into 5 regions being held by 5 different entities. And in all likelihood, Syria might end up as a failed state. Now a state where there are extremists, where there are terrorists, where there are criminals and smugglers. Or even if they are not, these are the people who gravitate towards areas which are failed states, ungoverned pockets. And Syria has threatened India's interest. I'm not saying Syrian state, but the threat of Daesh came from Syria and Iraq to India too. Let's not forget that. So this is something we should be very mindful of. Coming back to closer to home, geopolitics shattered peace on our eastern border, where China started flexing muscle. US withdrew its troops, all its troops in one go from Afghanistan in August 2021. Nobody knew what will happen because of the history of AFPAC region. It's a separate topic, so I'm not going to touch on what has happened in Afghanistan in the last 4 years. But yes, it's a matter of concern for us. It happened in our neighborhood. And then, as has been pointed out, we have seen violent regime change in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and now yesterday in Nepal. It definitely affects us in more ways than one. I think the impact is still being felt. Then, Pahalgam, I don't need to say more. So India-Pakistan had a 4-day, I won't call it a war because military leaders don't like to call it a war. They don't even call it a limited war. Clashes in which we won. And thereafter we saw in very quick succession Israel-Iran war. Something that I thought will not end because of their bitter enmity, but thankfully it ended in 12 days, not without scars. And then US jumped into this and struck the nuclear sites in Iran, which could have caused radioactive clouds that could have reached India. This is something I want to really make a point. that we should be prepared for nuclear fallouts of such misadventures. Thankfully, it did not happen. We have lakhs and lakhs of people in the Gulf region who could have been affected, Indians, and it could have reached us also. So there is nothing called global row. Everything affects us sitting here. And after that, we of course seen what happened yesterday. Israeli attack on Doha. Doha, those of you who've been there, is a vibrant, modern, happening city. In a diplomatic area, there was a strike carried out, aerial attack on an office which belonged to Hamas. It was known to everybody. I'm not taking sides. I'm not talking about politics here. I'm just telling you events which can shatter the world peace. This is really something really serious which has happened last night. And more importantly, another point, over the last 72 hours, I have seen social media posts predominantly coming out of the more developed world. I'm not saying they are by state actors, but I think they represent the feelings that people have. There's a great propaganda against immigrants, and Indians have been singled out. Most of it could be from people who are feeling affronted or have bad experience with Indians or whatever. But even if there is no design, the geopolitical speeches, geopolitical wranglings can lead to this. Part of what has happened in Nepal has come from this. And so the point I want to make here is, to a homeland, there could be three types of problem. One, military war with Pakistan and China. Terrorist attacks, which will definitely be orchestrated by Pakistan. I have no doubt about it in my mind. But this time they are going to use the pretext of some groups operating out of Afghanistan. That's the kind of propaganda they are unleashing right now, so as to deny that it is not LET, it is not Jaish. There will be some groups linked to so-called Al-Qaeda and Daesh, and they say it is coming from Afghan soil. And third, social unrest. Social unrest can be sparked by any kind of post which people may interpret the way they liked. And we've seen the damage in India too. So these are the threats that I think are global, regional, and local, or intertwined. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Very apt, and I think once you have clarified that the global disorder is impacting everybody, I think that's where the Indian government's present policy of India first is very apt, and I think that's doing the right work for us. Going to Manjit sir. Sir, you are a rare security professional who has served the army, then police services, then now homeland security through private guards is just one thing. But you have also gone ahead of your time, because people were not aware what is command center, you set up Soteria, and a lot of other things which are happening. What are you doing now so that we all get a cue that what is homeland security and the private government supporting close coordination with even our 14th President Saab has mentioned? How do we contribute? Because if the warfare is not only at the border, it's all of us are contributors or warriors in a way. So what are your comments about it?
Thanks, Gary, and congratulations on this inaugural event of this wonderful event that you have organized. It's a pleasure and privilege to be with such an august panel. I'm truly honored. My remit is more towards looking inwards rather than looking outwards. Private security companies play a very, very important part in literally everything that has been discussed so far on this panel. Whether it is narcotics, as Sir pointed out, whether it is illegal immigrants, whether it is terrorism, whether it is anything that happens within the confines of our country is affected, is directly related to our internal security. Now, as you would all appreciate, there is no government in the world which can actually provide that level of internal security through government channels, which can deliver all these points. We are in India very fortunate that we have a very, very large private security industry. Now, I don't know why it was born, whether it was born on the back of a requirement at a certain time, or it was just opportunities that came along as we went in. But to my understanding, as it was pointed out earlier also, I think there's over 70 million people working in this industry, which makes it the second largest employer of people in the country after agriculture. Think about it. the global mandate for police versus population ratio is, I think, 222 as per UN, and we are somewhere around, I think, 170 or 150, if I'm not, 152. Whereas for every one policeman, we have 4 security guards. That's the ratio that we are. If you look at that ratio, you have probably the most potent, most visible, most available, most well spread out community that can service the security needs of the country. And that is where we need to really use that opportunity. What are we doing today? We are doing corporates, we are doing collaborative things, we are now doing airports, we are doing metros, we are doing ports, we are also doing large gatherings, G20, Kumbh Mela. All these events at some point or the other have been entrusted to the responsibility of private security companies, which probably a few years back we would have not thought of. But that brings us to the point how best to use this ability. What is really required is integrating all these advantages that we get out of private security companies into our government setup. We need the government to ensure that there is a grid where intelligence sharing between private security companies and the government is a regular output. We need the government to educate the country that a professionally trained security guard who's highly skilled is as good as policemen. We must also not forget that we have the new Agniveer scheme now, and that Agniveer scheme now is going to start putting out these highly qualified, highly trained, and not just trained on standard arms and ammunition. They are trained on very sophisticated equipment. They are technologically savvy. All this workforce that is going to come out can be easily absorbed into private security company, which then becomes a bulwark against all the issues that we are facing, whether it is, like Sir pointed out, narcotics and internal security, intelligence gathering, which is one of the biggest things. There are a lot of countries from where we can learn how to do this. I would say Singapore, this very small country, is a great example. They had an organization like we have our Central Industrial Security Force. And one day the government decided, this is a cost center for me. Of course, I need it. I can't do away with it, but it is a cost center. So what can we do to make it more usable in a way? So they privatized it. Of course, they sold it to their own sovereign fund, which is all right, but they privatized it. That private security company now, which is now called Auxiliary Police, is the only organization in Singapore which is permitted to carry arms. So when the government needs a CISF or an auxiliary police, they are available. This huge armed force is available. But otherwise, they provide services to the public, to all the critical infrastructure. They secure airports. Incidentally, they've grown so big, they secure more than 65 airports all across Australia now. So that you can imagine. So from being a cost center, this highly trained force has now become an asset which earns money for the economy and yet is available to the government. I mean, I know my security company in Singapore is guarding the Singapore port, which is extremely sensitive because it is the nerve center of the entire shipping in Southeast Asia. On the other side, we can learn from countries like, all the developed countries like UK and US, where jails are privatized, where police stations are privatized. Again, I'm very proud that one of my companies in UK today does manages all the police stations in Surrey and Sussex. And of course, they don't do all the technical jobs, so there is investigations and law enforcement, which is done by the police officers, and everything else besides that is done by a private security company. Now, all of that can be done, and the government can get that advantage of having this huge workforce available to it, and it will be a win-win on both sides.
Thank you, sir. That's quite, again, revolutionary, I will say. And if other countries are doing it, possibly India also doing it cannot be far away either. Yes, I think somewhere or the other we also have this tendency that, or maybe I think it's right, the ship is so large. To turn around this ship, even for minor degrees, it'll take far more Herculean effort than whether it's a UK or a Singapore or anything else. So I think, yes, but there are a lot of changes coming up. And within those changes, I will also say the corporate sector per se has taken huge significance because whenever we are talking about economy is directly correspondent to the corporate sector. And if I look at Captain Shakil Ahmed, so you have the way Major Rajain has done various different hats, but within the corporate sector, you handle a lot of diversity and handle a lot of risk. So sometime or the other, we still within the corporate sector do talk about regulatory risk. On one side, we want to collaborate with the government and say, let's do it together. And another time, we may not be talking in such open conferences, but it's a reality. We're talking about the regulatory risk as well. So with that, how do we pave path to a new warfare and borderless issues and all, whereas still we sometimes are not government and corporate sector trusting each other enough. And we're talking about, President has said, close coordination. So any comments from your side on that?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. And among this esteemed panelists, I feel like a dwarf. And with such luminaries expressing themselves, I think it's best to stick to the basics. And for borderless wars, that's what we wanted to discuss. It's obviously not restricted to the borders now. It is in your palm. The thing that you hold, the phone, that is a propaganda machine which is feeding you everything. Recently, like the timely thing that this conference has given us is also awareness to Nepal, what's happening there. So we are having ticking time bombs everywhere. We have to navigate this space very, very carefully. For the last almost 3 decades, 7 years in the army and then almost 23 now in the corporate world, I see the complete shift in the way we look at risks now. My sense is that corporate resilience is key to national security as well. As security professionals and risk professionals in the corporate world, we have a lot of work to do. We have to ensure that our supply chains are secure and safe because they are a part of the overall network of the country. We have to ensure that things are moving on well. Well, in the sense that you asked the question about regulatory risk, definitely. We've just seen something that impacted a lot of us. Having said that, there are dialogues which are possible with the government to allay the risks that the government feels coming from a segment or a sector. I think the corporate world has to wake up also to realize that we are not, away from the entire ecosystem of the country. Everything impacts us, and everything that impacts us also impacts the country. I am an ex-air defense officer, so I've seen the transition from when I was a young lieutenant. I was, during Op Vijay, I was posted to the border. I was sent with a metal compass and a quarter-inchy map, as we used to call it, in '99. And I was given a georef, and I found my place, and I went and dug in there. It was 400 meters from the Paki border. And when my seniors came in to inspect, they actually gave me a scolding because I was there very close to the border with a lot of equipment. I was in air defense. I was filling up the gaps in the Air Force radars. But I was supposed to be like 15 kilometers outside the medium range. But from the brigade, the georef that had come, and the compass that I was holding, and the map that I held, I was very close by. So just on a lighter note, my second in command who was there, Colonel Gurjeet Singh Brad, he came on a visit and he saw, Shakil, brief me about the area. I said, Samne uthi hui zameen, Pakistani DCV. He was like, what? You are here? And then I said, left 150 meters, Abdul Hamid Samadhi. And he made a dark joke. He said, oh, koi nahi, Shakil, Abdul Hamid ki Samadhi ek Shakil Ahmed ki ho jayegi. See, these are the kind of jokes that we actually used to make when we were deployed at the border. And that's very important that, we embrace these things. And then I moved back, obviously, because they said that, somebody will come and cut off your head and take it away. You're just 400 meters with 12 men. Now, coming back to the corporate sector, it is similar. When the corporate security guy or the CSO moves around in the organization, he is like a commando, like fixing things. To the CEOs and CFOs and everybody, I think they need to wake up and realize that, security is an integral part, or it's an asset, like Sir said. It's not really a cost center. It's an asset that actually builds a lot of things towards national security. So I think I prepared a lot, Gary, for this particular thing, but there are a lot of things which maybe we can come to later.
So we don't have legibility, otherwise we love to give you a VSM, not a Samadhi. But keeping the jokes aside, sir, I think, sir, General Bakshi, if I can come back to you, when you have correlated this with 71, this is really a very great, maybe a parachute opening in my head for a nice landing. So in 71, were we compelled so much that we had to do it? Do we choose the timing? In the present scenario, if I look at the compulsion, they have crossed the threshold of even 71. All of our borders, bad condition. America saying, you are under tariff. Pakistan did all the bad things. Yes, I think we were so strong in our response that they stopped. Otherwise, their intention was to continue. And China never can be seen as a friend, and there is a lot of things happening. So, do we choose now? Or do we wait to become more compulsive for us to say, now we have no other option?
I think you hit the, you hit the nail on the head, Gary. This situation now is worse than it was in 1971 when we were compelled to act. Now, when do you act? Very, very nice. I think you raised a very interesting and given me a new thought in my mind. End of March 71, Madam called Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, and Sam, I want you to move in. He said, Madam, that means war. She said, I don't care. मैं कर भी क्या सकती हूँ? Look at the way these refugees, if we just have to handle them for another year and we are gone, right? So the simple fact is, he said, Madam, I'm not ready. Now, telling that to Indira Gandhi, it took some guts, but the man said it. He said, Madam, she said, what do you mean? The eyebrows shot up and all that. And she asked all the ministers, aap log jaye. A very interesting piece of history, And she said, aap log jaye. So Sam also got up to go. She said, no, Sam, sit down. When everybody had gone, she said, what the hell do you mean you can't go in? He says, Madam, please, if you want my resignation, tell me whether it should be on mental ground or physical ground. But my advice to you is that as a professional, I've gotten your mind. If you want me to go in tomorrow, I will go in tomorrow. But this is end of March. The rain start in Bangladesh in April. 6 से 8 kilometer के rivers हैं, they become, 10 kilometers wide. The whole ground will turn into a quagmire. My tanks can't move. My trucks can't move. With the cloud cover, the Air Force won't be able to provide me air support. Right? Madam, you still want me to go in? I will go in. I can't guarantee you victory. She said, let me go in the month of November, December. Himalayan passes would have closed. Even if China wants to intervene, it cannot. Right? It cannot. And the ground will be hard, my tanks will move, the Air Force will give me full support. I guarantee you 100% victory. Orders, ma'am.
Wow.
This is called straight talking soldiers that we used to have. She just gave it a minute of thought and kudos to the lady. We can get very, offended. I mean, especially if you are an autocratic leader like Donald J. Trump, you won't take this kind of advice from your subordinate. But she said, okay, Sam, do it your way. Do it your way. Now, that's what I'm getting back to. Operation Sindoor was a trailer. Ladies and gentlemen, you should feel proud. Here's our young AD gunner here. They've done wonders. We have created an iron dome, which is, if not as good, possibly better than the Israelis with the Akash Tir system. We've got NAVIC series of 12 satellites, low Earth orbit satellites, geosynchronous, geopolar. 3,000 kilometers all around India's borders. They give you absolutely sub-meter resolution. And to explain sub-meter resolution, we hit Noor Khan. The air base of Pakistan at Noor Khan, their command and control bunker was there, right? हमारी नाविक सैटेलाइट्स ने पिकअप किया कि इस कमांड एंड कंट्रोल बंकर में, जिसके ऊपर 5 मीटर की चादर है, इवन अ डायरेक्ट न्यूक्लियर हिट विल डू नथिंग. फैराडे केज है, EMP प्रोटेक्टेड. इवन अ डायरेक्ट न्यूक will not knock it out. It was built by the American General Electric Company at a cost of $500 million. लेकिन इसमें एक air vent है for air conditioning. You know what is the size? 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters. Your BrahMos, ladies and gentlemen, have hit that 45 centimeter by 45 centimeter, 400 kilometers. Gone inside and exploded. उड़ गए सारे जो भी अंदर बैठे थे, भाप बन गई है. सारे सुपर कंप्यूटर, सारे सैटेलाइट लिंक्स वगैरह उड़ गए. एंड दी अमेरिकन्स का काफी कुछ सामान था वहां पे. वो वाइस डोनाल्ड ट्रंप सो अपसेट. आई मीन ये ट्रेड एंड टैरिफ तो बकवास है साहब. ही इज अपसेट बिकॉज नूर खान इज गॉन एंड दे वर यूजिंग नूर खान. ही इज अपसेट बिकॉज मुरीद एयरबेस, देयर ड्रोन कमांड पोस्ट इज गॉन. पर खच्चे उड़ा दिए हैं. I mean, what you have done has shaken the world. Have you understood? It has shaken the world. It has shaken the United States. इतनी accuracy वो भी ला सकते हैं. You see, the GPS जो है, ये पूरा globe cover करता है. So when you turn a 3D picture into a 2D map, you know, he was talking of maps and compasses. You see, there is that error that comes in when Greenland looks as big as Africa. Distortion आती है. आपके नाविक में कोई डिस्टॉर्शन नहीं है. किसी को, सबको पता है जीपीएस की फ्रीक्वेंसीज, ग्लोनास की फ्रीक्वेंसीज, विदाउट चाइनीज की फ्रीक्वेंसी. किसी सन ऑफ द गन डजंट नो द फ्रीक्वेंसीज ऑफ नाविक. यू गॉट, योर साइंटिस्ट हैव डन अ ट्रेमेंडस जॉब. This you know what is called indigenization, Atmanirbharta, has done wonders. 50 cruise missiles and the Pakistani Air Force could not fly. First day आपने shoot किया with the S-400, 316 किलोमीटर पे उसका एवैक धुआं हो गया, कुछ नहीं बचा. उसके बाद उन्होंने फिर ट्राई किया अवंतीपुर को अटैक करने का. वो S-400 ने उनके 500 जहाज आसमान से गिराए, एक एवैक आसमान से गिराया है, और कोई 19 से 20 जहाज उनके टोटल उड़ गए. We had a free run. You see, we were on television, हम लोग होते थे आपके साथ. तो वो बोले कि साहब वो सीज फायर हो गया. तो बोले जनरल साहब आपकी क्या रिएक्शन है? मैंने ये सिर्फ कहा कि ये दिल मांगे मोर, 2 दिन 3 दिन और दे देते, इनका बैंड बज जाता.
Great.
इनका बैंड बज जाता. But this is the point now that what I'm trying to come to. In March, we decided to call it off. We didn't go in March 71. We went in December. Maybe you want to do that?
But with that, I think that's huge energy, intelligence, dynamism, all clubbed into all 5 of them. I'm so happy to have comments from them. But शायद निष्कर्ष निकालना है तो few days back I heard from गुरुजी डॉक्टर विक्रम सिंह only कि जो जंगों के घोड़े हैं शादियों में नाचा नहीं करते. लेकिन जब हम पीस लविंग कंट्री हैं, लेकिन जब जरूरत पड़ेगी तो उन्हीं घोड़ों पर जब हमारे वीर निकलेंगे, चाहे उसमें पैराट्रूपर्स हो, चाहे एडी हो, चाहे आरटी हो, इन्फेंट्री हो, सपोर्ट फंक्शंस हो, ब्रह्मोस हो, तो खैर किसी की नहीं रहेगी. Thank you so much everybody. Thank you panelists. A huge round of applause for the panelists on the stage.